Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Chapter 3, Overcoming Your Body.
Good evening. My name is Ray Dwyer, and this is Dr. Joe Dispenza's Meditation and Book Discussion Group. Tonight, we're talking Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Chapter 3, Overcoming Your Body. Last week, we talked about Chapter 2, Overcoming Your Environment. And there are some very interesting things about that because the environment that we talked about last week is more than just the outside around you, your room and your space and the global stuff. Your environment is the energy that your body lives in. And I thought that was kind of interesting because being the sequential kind of guy I am, is like, why didn't he do energy center 1, 2, and 3 and up like that? Instead, he started with energy center number 2 because how you view your environment energy-wise rules. That is just, and it took me a long time to really grasp that. So getting a hold of the idea of the environment that we talked about last week is a big step in what goes on. And it will be touched on today as we go through overcoming the body. And I'll point it out when we get there. Let me read this first section to you so that it gives the perfect heads up for what this chapter is about. Here we go. No one thinks in a vacuum. Every time you have a thought, there is a biochemical reaction in the brain. You make a chemical, and as you learn, the brain then releases specific chemical signals to your body, where they act as messengers of thought. Everything we do, think, and feel is chemical transmission from the body to the brain and from the brain to the body. It's more than I ever used to think of it. Because have you ever tried to not do something and just thoughts come to mind and just go away? Just what it is that as we'll go through this chapter, you have a habit of producing these chemicals. Those chemicals are released in those bodies. Those chemicals trigger thoughts in your mind. They're not your thoughts, they're body thoughts. I don't know if that makes sense. And and as those chemicals hit your mind, the mind finds thoughts that resonate with those chemicals, and then those thoughts drive chemicals in the mind. Pretty soon you're living something that you had no plan on living at all. It's just, and it's not you exactly, the consciousness you, it's your body habits. We'll go into details about that really bizarre conversation in a few minutes. When the body gets these chemical messages from the brain, it compiles instantly by initiating a matching set of reactions directly in alignment with what the brain is thinking. Then the body immediately sends a confirming message back to the brain, and now it's feeling exactly the way the brain is thinking. So you could be just driving down the highway, and all of a sudden your body releases some chemicals because it related to something, a song, an event, somebody blew the horn or something, and the body releases a chemical in your head. The chemical in your head finds a resonant thought that sends chemical. Pretty soon you got this body brain loop going on, and you're just driving down the road going, what's going on? you know and it's just how the body does it. And that's the introduction to this chapter: overcoming your body's control of your life. To understand this process, how you typically think equal to your body, and how to form a new mind, you first need to appreciate the role that your brain and its chemistry plays in your life. In the last few decades, we've discovered that the brain and the rest of the body interact via powerful electrochemical signals. Get this, the brain-body connection is a whole life that's not even having to do with your consciousness. It just has its own thing going on. And that explains why some things are so hard to give up and change, because you don't have control of it. And that's what this book is about, is gaining that control. But that was an introduction to what we're up against, is that there really is a electrochemical reaction from the body to the brain and back down to the body into this loop that your consciousness doesn't, or should I say, isn't in control. Pretty amazing to me. For the purposes, I'm on page 55 now. For our purposes, think of neurotransmitters as chemical messengers, primarily from the brain and mind. Neuropeptides as chemical signals that serve as a bridge between the brain and the body to make us feel the way we think. And hormones as the chemicals related from feeling primarily in the body. So if we think a certain way, the chemicals are released to make us feel in a way that associates to what we think. And which one comes first is sometimes hard to say, because it just starts this loop going. And you could just be sitting watching news, and all of a sudden you got this craziness going on inside you. And it's just an old chemical habit. Might not have anything to do with what you're doing in the moment. Wow, that was a big deal for me. You ever try to break a habit and you just get haunted? I don't mean a chemical habit. I mean a lifestyle, change of lifestyle, and you just haunted by it. I'm certified, not that way. Well, maybe I am. I'm a VA cancer patient, and I got certified military PTSD with disabilities, associated disabilities. And I used to be, oh my goodness, be just jumpy as a cat in a doghouse. Just wow. I'd overreact left and right. And that describes, because I'm just doing stuff and then something would happen and I would just get way off the collar. And I started learning this and I went, oh, so this isn't me. It's not that my intelligence and my consciousness is crazy, but my body is so intensely addicted to these intense chemicals of my military that I just didn't know how to approach it to learn to let go of it. And so learning this, I got an understanding of what my enemy was. My enemy is the habits, the chemical habits in my body. Not that I was broken, not that I was loose, that my body, I hadn't re-educated my body to a peacetime environment. I had lived that all my life, just running these military roles in me. And learning this, I said, oh, this is just chemicals in my body being released by some strange memory, some associated memories. Okay, I'm on page 57. As you think different thoughts, your brain circuits fire corresponding sequences, patterns, combinations, which then produce levels of mind equal to those thoughts. You get a fantasy and it drives a chemical reaction down in your body, and your body starts reacting as if that fantasy. Once these specific networks of neurons are activated, the brain produces specific chemicals with the exact signature to match. It doesn't have to be a bad thing like violence or anything. Just think a thought about a turkey dinner and see how quickly your body responds. I mean, it doesn't take long of thinking about the day before Thanksgiving when your house starts smelling for all the cooking and the sweet potato casseroles and the little bit of bread cooking and the, stuff like that. And pretty soon your body is responding. In a matter of seconds, you begin to feel what you're thinking. And that's that loop that I was just mentioned. Maria, I'll be with you in just a minute. I want to get another page 2 down. The brain constantly monitors the way the body is feeling. based on the chemical feedback it receives. It will generate more thoughts that produce chemicals corresponding to the way the body is feeling, so that we first begin to feel the way we think, and then we think the way we feel. And you know what was not in that equation? Choice. Because I never learned how to choose beyond that thinking and feeling loop, because I thought for a big part of my life that thinking and feeling loop was me. It's really not. It's just a bad habit. A state of being means we have become familiar with the mental, emotional state, the way of thinking and the way of feeling, which has become an integral part of our self-identity. And that's where I was going. Once this loop becomes so familiar, I thought it was me, not something that is just a chemical loop going on in me. And that was my rescue. When I learned that this chronic loop that was running in my head wasn't me, now I knew how to release it. I knew that I could let go of it. You with me on that? And so we described who we are by how we are thinking and being in the present moment. I am angry. I'm this. I'm a crazy Army veteran and blah, blah, blah. No, I am not. And once I started saying that and separating my consciousness from this chemical loop in my body, I took the first big step in my ability to change who and what I am. Maria, thank you for being patient. You want to put your hand up there again and I'll call on you. I wanted to get to that one point about it's our self-identity. Maria, where'd you go? Okay, maybe not Maria. I see Donna Barb. Don, I see your hand, Donna.
We need to unmute her.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was trying to delete the other guys.
Okay, Jackson, how you doing? I see your hand up. Okay. All right. Mark V, I see your hand up.
Maybe we need to unmute her, everybody. Mark V. Okay.
I'm gonna undo unmute. You can unmute yourselves, but let's just wait till I call on you. Mark V, I saw your hand up. Did you want to speak, sir?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you, sir. Oops. I think I just accidentally muted you again. Unmute again, please.
Can you hear me?
Now I got you. Thank you for your patience.
Sure. Much of what you talk about, at least right now, the body, I was saying that much of what you're talking about, the body-brain connection, there's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it talks about triggers that one isn't necessarily aware of and how it triggers a whole barrage of body chemical engagements. But it's a very, very good book. The Body Keeps the Score.
Okay.
Chapter 5 is actually called The Body-Brain Connection, Body-Brain Connections.
Yeah, it's part of getting free of the burdens of things that we drag through our life. Okay, thank you, Mark. You're gone?
Yes, I remove him.
Let's try Froza. I know Froza.
Yeah, we know her, right?
Hi, frozen. I'm a real person.
Yes, and it's so nice to see your big smile.
Thank you, Ray. Today I did not do our homework, and what I realized is that usually in the morning time, unfortunately, when I wake up, uh, I wake up with a lot of anxiety, and then I'm like, okay, it's better to just lie on the bed. So does the book later on cover this, or does the chapter cover this part?
I'm not sure what your question was. I kind of missed something. You want to
Oh.
ask me again?
Yeah. So, um, for example, like we're talking about the body-mind connection and how the body keeps the score. And a lot of the times too, it's like when we get triggered by something, it's our body that reacts in a way that, oh, we are unsafe to something. Um, so in the morning, when we get up sometimes, and it's like, oh, we get up with anxiety. Uh, so does the book cover that part?
That is part of what we're talking about here, because your body creates a chemical out of habits of the past.
Hmm.
And those chemicals get in your head, and your head finds a thought that relates to that chemical. And pretty soon you got a body mind chemical feedback going up, and you're just going, I just woke up. What am I all messed up for? I haven't even done anything yet. My head's all messed up. That's what we're talking about, how your body just releases a chemical out of something in your past. The purpose of the body-mind connection is that is a survival. Oh, goodbye, Jose. You know, uh,
So the
so
mind connection
the body-mind connection is a
and it's like
survival
an alarm
efficiency
clock.
thing. Right. Let's take this to the other side of this equation. Let's say now that you've gotten healed, now that your mind is clean, now that you've got peace in your mind, the same thing is working. It's the same system, but different energies. Now, when you wake up, your body has joy in it because it's releasing what's familiar. Now, when you first wake up, you got a smile on your face. It's the same system because you have new information working your body. So your body is just reacting because you're bringing the past with you every moment of your life. That's what this cortex does. It remembers our life. I mean, science can probe your mind and all of a sudden you remember the 5th grade birthday party or something, you know. So that stuff is there, but that same system works to our good when once we get to the other side of the equation or the bridge of our healings. You know, so it's just part of the system. Jihan, good evening.
Me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I really loved this portion of the chapter because it really opened my eyes. And it made me become just a lot more aware as I tried to like discover or realize like maybe what was going on in my mind. But it's crazy that just being in a certain environment can like trigger these feelings without necessarily something being active going on in your mind. Like
Exactly.
I would feel myself at work and nothing would be happening. And then all of a sudden I have like anxiety. I just feel like tightness in my chest. I feel like a pit in my stomach. And I'm just like, what is going on?
Yes.
Like there's nothing even happening right here. And it's just like these memorized emotions, I guess, from when times were stressful. And so my question kind of is either for you or for other people that, you know, now this is brought to the awareness, like now you can be aware and kind of like watch the mind and watch the body. What have been some tactics to bring yourself out of that emotion when you find that you're in it for no apparent reason?
Yes, that's what we're talking about because we're bringing our past with us. We could have seen a movie that got in our head and got twisted in our body chemistry, and we wake up rehearsing that scene in the movie and we're all cranked up going, what happened? It's a process that we'll learn as we go through these 3 books of how to clean the consciousness of those things. And it's a process. It's not a pill. It takes time and it takes practice. This is real life and real issues. Okay, Robert, I see your hand, but let me cover a couple more pictures so we pages so we can go on. Then I'll get with you, Robert. Keep your hand there. When feeling becomes the means of thinking, and that's just what you were talking about, or if we cannot think greater than how we feel, we got this feeling and I can't break my thought to get free of that feeling, we can never change. That's a hard word. If we can't learn to get beyond this compulsion in us, we can't change. But knowing that it's possible, knowing that it's not you, knowing that it's just an old memory working a chemical in our body, that was very freeing to me. Because it's not that you're crazy up here, it's just that the body is holding a memory. I think that was a very important statement that, well, anyway, it was to me. On page 61, actually, you no longer need to think about the past events to create the feeling. You can't seem to think or act any other way than how you always feel. You've memorized suffering by your recurring thoughts and feelings, those related to the incident as well as other events in your life. Your thoughts about yourself and your life tend to be colored by feelings of victimization, self-pity, et cetera, et cetera. If you've rehearsed these things for years, they're embedded in this energy of your body, and they'll just release every now and then. It's a hard thing, but that's how we've made. My military PTSD had me chasing goblins and bad guys in an insane way. I lost numerous jobs because I so overreacted. You know, I was very good at what I did, but I couldn't control this body-mind loop that was just running in me. You know, it was in the beginning. How did I get it? Well, I get it for a survival tool. That's part of what you train in the military so that you can be strong and fast and courageous and crazy. And but no one seems to understand when you get in civilian life, you got to know how to let go of that stuff. And no one seems to know how to teach the veterans that you're no longer in that extreme environment. But it don't have to be a veteran. You get in a car accident and it just wrecks your life. That intersection, that car, the color of clothes you're wearing could affect you for years down the road. You could be in a relationship and your partner breaks your heart over something just stupid. And it could hurt you for years as you rehearse that month of the event. And it's a memory that gets built in your body. These are real life things. You don't have to be a veteran to have a PTSD. We are capable of reliving a past event over and over, perhaps thousands of times in one lifetime. Think about how that builds neural networks in your head by rehearsing an event again and again and again. Pretty soon you've got networks fixed on that image of that trauma. When the body remembers better than the constructive conscious mind, that is, when the body is the mind, that's called a habit. We create habits of thinking about our problem, not deliberately, but as part of our survival. I want to make sure I never forget what happened. You know, that type of thing. It's a survival tool, but it becomes chronic. Think of it as an extreme case of stress. I will tell you that stress is not bad. In fact, I'll tell you stress is an important tool of survival. But what I'll also tell you is that chronic stress is very ill for the body because you've got to learn how to let go. And it's just like PTSD. PTSD served me well because it made me a survivor in my military experience. It just ruined my life as a civilian, you know, because I didn't know how to let go. Stress is very good because it makes you do things. It makes you work harder, makes you vigilant. But when you come home and sit in your chair and you want to meditate, if you're still like this because you're stressed out of your day, Now it's chronic. Now it's harmful. You know, if you get stressed out at work and you bring that stress home to your children, that's harmful. Can you let go of these things? That's what we're learning, is that we are really separate from these programs. That was big to me. You ever beat yourself up because you can't make it stop? Now you understand that it really isn't you. It's a program running in your body and the mind. And we're going to talk about tools as we go through this book to break the chain that's wrecking your life. Okay? This chapter is an introduction to it. Now, here's something that I just want, you know, Dr. Joe, you're right about a lot of things. This can't be right. I'm over on page 62. I think that's what that number is. This means that we will think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings, react in identical ways, behave the same manner, believe the same dogmas, and perceive reality the same ways. About 95% of who we are by midlife is a series of subconscious programs that have become automatic. Think of it. Dr. Joe says 95% of your everyday life are programs running in you. I went, no way, that can't be true. You know, I was just kind of one of those guys, you know, I'm in charge of my life. And well, the more I get into this, it's like as your circle of understanding is bigger and bigger, the more you realize you don't know. As my circle of understanding and the skill in the set gets bigger, I'm starting to really agree with that 95%. The part of me that I control is really small. Think about that 5% of the mind is consciousness struggling against the 95% running unconscious programs. That's why it's so hard, because this chooser up here is outvoted 9-1. Wow, that was a challenge to me. I just didn't like that answer that Dr. Joe gave. Mr. Robert, you've been patient. Thank you. I see your hand up.
We need to unmute her. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me unmute you.
Thank you, Patrice.
Are we
Sorry.
ready?
Yeah, I got
Yes,
you, Robert.
you're
Thank
ready.
you.
I want to mention another book too that's very similar along these lines. The gentleman's name is Maxwell. I don't know if this is his first name or last name. He wrote a book many years ago called Psycho-Cybernetics. I don't know if people are familiar with
Oh, yes.
Yes. And in that, he was a famous plastic surgeon, and people would come in and they've complained about their nose, their eyes, their lips, or, you know, some body part forever and ever. He gives them surgery. He shows them the mirror that this has been repaired. They're now stunningly beautiful. And on the inside, they still feel ugly and they still react the same way when people give them the smallest slight. They jump into all those preconceived scripts you talked about and just tear themselves down. The other one is, and you may know him because it is to some degree the repair for this, and that's Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is often in conjunction with, or on YouTube at least, like side by side with Joe Dispenza, talking about how you can, by thinking thoughts, physically change your mind and therefore reprogram yourself.
The book is Biology of Belief. I've got it on my shelf. So if you want an interesting book to read along this line that Robert just mentioned, I don't know about cybernetics, but Bruce Lipton's Biology of Belief, that one is an interesting book. Bruce Lipton is a good friend of Dr. Joe. They walk hand in hand in what they teach. So that one I'll recommend. I'll put on my recommended reading list. Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Karina, I know you. You'll be safe. Dude, tonight's going to be one of my top crash nights. I've had a few, but they're busy tonight. Hello, Karina.
Hi there. It's a party here with all the disruptions.
Yeah. I'll be spending some time editing that out, so.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I just wanted to share something along the lines of waking up with anxiety, which happened to me a lot. So I read somewhere that during the night, we process what we had yesterday, right? And it's a good practice, they said, to go over the day in a positive way. So remember all the positive things before you go to sleep of the day that had passed. And I started doing that because I was waking up in the middle of the night, scared and with panic attacks and anxiety and so forth. And actually, I found it very, very helpful. So program yourself to go to sleep kind of with positive thinking. Even if the day didn't go 100%, just find those things that went well and just go through them in the mind with gratitude, with saying, "Oh wow, look at you, at yourself," kind of thing. What did you do? What did you accomplish today? And it was so cool, and this was so great, and I wish tomorrow it's going to be exactly the same great thing. And I really did find it helpful over time. It For me it was helpful, so just wanted to share that.
Okay.
And also I got into the habit of before getting out of bed after meditations, or even before meditations, to think one thought. This is the best day of my life. Like, I woke up, I'm still breathing. This is the best day of my life, every single day, every single morning. And that also kind of I saw that my days were more positive, more less intrusive thoughts of trauma and things like that. So just wanted to share with you guys. Maybe someone will find it helpful.
Right. The magic in what she said is that it moves the mind to a different process. It gets the mind out of the habit that the body's stirring. So that's a good suggestion. Okay, let me continue here. And when the 5% that is conscious is going against the 95% that is running subconscious automatic programs, the 95% is so reflexive that it only takes one stray thought or single stimulus from the environment to turn on the automatic program again. That's just what Karina was saying. You can just be having a normal day, you wake up, something happens, and an old chemistry starts running. And you turn your mind to your future intent. When we try to regain control, this is when the body signals the brain to begin talking us out of our conscious goals, our internal chatter. I call those barking dogs because that's what they remind me of. They just knock, knock, knock. You ever have a little dog that yark, yak, 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 yak? That's what those old memories were like in my mind, and I finally cleared them. So this is all just the introduction to the chapter. We haven't really got into the subject yet. In this book, you will learn how to get into the subconscious and reprogram it with new sets of strategies. And what Karina said is one of those strategies. Get up and bless yourself in the morning in one way or another. In effect, you have to deprogram and unwire your old thinking, and giving yourself a good outlook to start your day is a really good tool to do it. Over on page 66. When anything goes wrong or is awry in your life, you automatically assume that you're the guilty party. Have you ever had a habit of being guilty? My habit was anger, and I don't care what happened, I was angry. It didn't take but anything, and I was angry at something. And this story that he's talking about here, the person had a guilt habit. she would, no matter what happened, I'm sorry, they're always apologizing, always guilty, it's my fault. It's not, your body has these programs running in it. You have become unconsciously guilty most of the time. I was unconsciously angry most of the time, and I had no idea how to get free of it until I met Dr. Joe. The body becomes addicted to fill in the blank. This word is guilt. My word was anger, or any emotion in the same way that it would get addicted to a drug. Now, I was a pretty tough attitude guy. The idea that I had given myself an addiction to a chemical drug was just about intolerable. It's like, I don't want to be addicted. That's crazy. I mean, you'd have to know me to understand this guy doesn't do that. And yet here's all the evidence. I was literally addicted to the chemicals of anger. Well, that's just one. There's a whole list of harmful emotions that we get bound to, and they're like addictions. They don't go away just because you tell them to. Trying to change your emotional pattern is like going through drug withdrawal. It really is. And like I said, what is your addiction? Is it anger? Is it jealousy? Is it guilt? Your cells are always spying on what is happening in the brain and the mind. And the body is the best mind reader ever. So they all stop what they're doing and look up to the brain and think, what are you doing up there? And that's what we're talking about. The name of the book is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And these tools, becoming aware that it's not you that's doing this, but a habit pattern in your body. I don't know about you, but that was freeing to me to know that. Your cells are always spying on the body, on the mind. Okay. If that doesn't work, the second sneak attack occurs. So he talks about a fast track where the body comes up and triggers the mind. And then it talks about how subfocalizations, where you start talking to yourself. As long as we use familiar feelings as a barometer, a feedback on our own efforts to change, will always talk ourselves out of new possibilities. Now, that's where I wanted to pause. Think of this. How many times have you been working on something in your mind? As long as we use familiar feelings, I just feel this way. I feel this. Don't use feelings as a barometer when you're trying to change. As feedback on your effort to change, we'll always talk ourselves out of change. Why? Because it doesn't feel right to change, because change is not familiar. Change is uncomfortable. Change is unknown. I'm not safe doing that. I'm safe when I'm just hyper vigilant. I'm not safe when I'm not guilty. I'm not safe being pleasant because it makes me feel vulnerable. Nina, I see your hand. How you doing?
Yes. So I would turn my camera on, but just came out with the flu last night. But I just wanted to say that it really resonated with me, what you're sharing. I think one of the biggest things for me was like getting out of the victim mindset, because a lot of people will say, why would I ever ask for anxiety? Why would I ever ask for this? And sometimes I think with his work, where we've adapted so much into that, the pain, where it's almost like our identity, it's hard to see past that. And I think for me, one of the biggest things was kind of shifting out of the why me victim perspective and noticing like okay, what you were saying, sometimes our pain can be familiar versus like unknown healing. And I know for like disordered anxiety and panic, avoidance is a huge thing. And I know that I've been dealing with that lately after dealing with stress for months and months and months. I can totally see how that has just become my habitual lifestyle now, where I've avoided certain things like driving and being home on my own and things like that. And the avoidance behaviors where I'm going off feelings telling me you'll be safer, you won't feel the anxiety and things like that, where I can recognize how the sensations and feelings have kind of programmed my life where I'm expecting that daily instead of kind of rewiring of no, we're going to do this even if there's a emotion or feeling that we've kind of habitually been practicing.
Right.
And
Nina, let me ask you a
uh-huh.
question. Now that you know it's not you running these things and but body memories, how does that help you?
I think just more of the shift of okay, not hopeless, like okay, I'm not like this victim of oh, I deal with it's not my identity. I can, just like I've habituated myself through stress into dealing with anxiety, I can habituate myself back out of it. So it kind of reinstills that for me. And the work
That's
is
a
hard. I'm not there yet, but it definitely helps with that mindset shift of okay,
That's
like
exactly what I wanted to hear, because that's exactly how I felt. Once I realized this guy that's inside this head is really not this crazy guy. It's just my body's running these programs. So I can find something here that can take charge of this, and if I created a program to do this, I can create a program to put it away.
exactly.
That was the answer I was looking for, Nina. Thank you.
Thank
Okay, let me go on a little bit further here. As long as we use familiar feelings as a barometer, as feedback on our efforts to change, we'll always talk ourselves out of change. Man, you got to realize that that's not you. The next step in breaking the habit of being ourselves is understanding how important it is to get the mind and the body working together and to break the chemical continuity of our guilt, shame, anger, depression, state of being, whatever it is. Resisting the body's demand to restore that old unhealthy order isn't easy, but help is only a thought away. And Nina just spelled it out. Once you know that's not you, and that's just a program running that, then you can start working to take control of that program. Good news is that we can become consciously aware of those tendencies. I'll deal more with that concept later. For now, I hope you can accept that change your personality, you need to change your state of being. And your state of being is your body-mind connection. Whatever those are, that's your state of being. Over on page. They don't make that. Okay, 71. Okay. We stand on a soapbox proclaiming change to be in our best interest, but on a visceral level, we can't seem to bring up the feelings of the true happiness. That's because the mind and body aren't working together. Have you ever seen these? Have you ever tried to do these positive mental attitudes where I will be good, I will be good, I will be good, I will be at peace, I will be at peace, and you go through your day and every day is the same wreck that it's always been. And that's because just saying it doesn't get it done. You've got to learn what we're going to go through to drive and to connect the heart and the mind together as one, because the heart is running the body programs and it still remembers the traumas that your life went through. You know, it's part of your survival skill. Okay. But when you sit down in the chair to meditate, you got to learn how to let go. And that's what we're going to be doing through these books. That's because the mind and the body aren't working together. By definition, emotions are the end product of past experiences in life. That's why I tell people, don't trust your emotions. But emotions, no, don't trust them, because they're the last thing that expresses. You have an event, it goes through your mind, it goes, goes in the body, whatever, and then it goes back to your mind and you start trying to understand the event and you get an emotion over the event. The emotion is the caboose of the train of events. That's like looking at the caboose of a train to understand where the train's going. And that's why you'll hear me say as we go through these books, don't trust your emotion. They're the last thing that's there. And you don't steer anything by the trailer. You steer it by what's driving it. And what's driving it is the heart-mind connection, those programs. The bottom line, most of us live in the past and resist living in the new future. What? I had hoped to be healed for so many years. I had hoped for peace for so many years. And yet, here it is. And that's what's so amazing about this book, is that this book is written and every one of you you see yourselves in this book. I read this and I said, that's me. It's just so human how he writes. Most of us live in the past. That's what PTSD, that's what trauma is. You're living in that past moment again and again and again. And we're going to learn how to let it go. Why? The body is so habituated to memorizing the chemical record of our past experience that it grows attached to those emotions. But the part of that statement I want you to circle is the body is so habituated to memorizing the chemical record. You're dealing with chemicals in the body, not real events. You're dealing with a chemical memory. And we've got to reprogram this so that the body will start producing different chemicals. It's like training an animal. Remember, this is not you. This body is not you. You are the conscious being expressing in the body, and that it's gotten miseducated, and we'll just stop there. Miseducated. And we're going to get a new education so you can get new programs in here so you can have the abundant life emotionally that you meant to be. Feeling and emotions are not bad. They are the end products of an experience. And that's what I was saying. That's on the top of page 74. So when you get an emotion, enjoy it, but don't let it rule your life, because it's the end of a series of events, chemical and neurological and matter-to-matter stuff. Another major aspect of breaking the habit has to do with our physical health. Certainly in the hierarchy of things, most of what we want to change about our lives is our health issues. When I started Dr. Joe, I had been a patient of the VA Medical Center for cancer, phase 4 melanoma cancer. And I had out-survived everybody else in my group, but I was facing my 6th deep surgery, never mind all the other, my skin cancer. Someone once asked me what kind of skin cancer I had. I just told them I had them all. Yeah, I did. But when I started studying Dr. Joe, I was facing my 6th surgery. A year later, all cancer ended because I learned what this book taught me. The myth that genes create disease and the fallacy of genetic determinism. I grew up with, among many other education things, I grew up being told that the mind is a fixed quantity. This is the brain that you get, and that's all you get. If you burn brain cells, you just don't have as much. Well, we now know that the brain's neural networks are completely plastic. They're completely changing. Every time you get a new idea, old neural networks go away and new networks re-engage. Scientific fact. But the genetic thing is also an interesting thing that they got wrong. I was told I had fixed genes and this is who I am, this is how I was born, that's how I was going to be. No, that's not the science now. The science now is like your genes in every cell of your body is like a little general processor. And they have limited things that they can do, but there's multiple things that they do, and they respond to their environment. That's why last week was so important. And the environment of the genes is 2 parts. One is the chemical environment. Your body triggers the gene expression through chemicals in the body. But what rules the body chemistry? Well, we could live a very default life like we do, or we can get new energy. I like to do this because I've got this column of light that I see in me. I've got this, I can change my energy, and my energy changes my chemistry, and my chemistry changes my DNA expression. When I had my breakthrough meditation, I changed so drastically that I wasn't healed of cancer. My cancer simply ended. It was 2 weeks later, I was in surgery. That was the scheduled date for it. And the cancer in my body was dead. It wasn't dying, it was dead. He opened it up and showed it to me. The cells were all gray and withered, and they had died. My energy had changed so profoundly that there was no place for that cancer in my body, and it ended. Boom, just like that, all of it. I was, first time in 10 years, I went in for, shortly after that, I went in for a full body inspection, and they said, all clear. All my skin cancer ended. When you change your energy, you change your life, and the rules of your DNA change. And that's what that sentence is about. The word that's called is on, the first time you see it, is on page 74. We'll also look at the scientific understanding that may be new to you, called epigenetics, the control of genes from outside the cells, or maybe more precisely, the study of the change of gene function. Epi means above genetics. And it changes you. It just does. That's the art of this work, is to get your energy to change, and change, which is the ultimate environment of your body, and your genes expression will change chemically. I don't know about you, but that was life-changing. But what's funny about that is that I probably read this book a half a dozen times before I zoomed in on that word, because it was so new to me. It's like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? Some of this stuff may be so outside of you, outside of your life. I'm with you on that. It was months and multiple readings of this book before I zoomed in on that word and went, what are they talking about? We now know that less than 5% of all diseases today stem from a single gene disorder. All these diseases we have about our life, they're lifestyle disorders. Isn't that horrible? You know, just our culture is sick, but we can separate ourselves from the energy that's being put on us and tuned into us and programmed into us, and we can achieve a healthy body. The healing of the melanoma cancer is only part of my story. Wait till you stick with me for a while, and you'll get more. Just, oh, it's just mind-blowing what I've achieved doing this work. No medical, all my healings have been done at home. I didn't get healed at the conference. I didn't get some holy man. I didn't get some pills. I didn't get pharmaceuticals. All the sicknesses that I had, they all said there is no cure. Good luck with that, Ray. It's true that the external environment influences our internal environment. However, by changing our internal state of being, we can overcome the effect of a stressful, toxic environment so that certain genes do not become activated. We may not be able to control all the conditions of our external environment, but we certainly have a choice, and that's the magic word. We have a choice to work on it, to controlling our inner circumstances. You have a choice to sit down and start learning the meditations of how to go in and let go of the things that make you do this in your heart, and let your heart start healing. Because your body has a default program, and that's to heal. But it also has a program that when you're in fear and stress, your energies go out because it's keeping you safe. Survival is important. And so that's what the body does. But when the body's spending its energy out there, you're not digesting your food correctly. You're not moving your oxygen correctly. Your immune system is suppressed. And all these things are stress related. Page 77. Okay, before we got into further epigenetic conversation. Anybody want to add to that last part? We just got introduced to that magical word epigenetics. You're going to hear that throughout the 3 books that we're going to talk about. This book, You Are the Placebo, and Becoming Supernatural. That word is used again and again because it explains when you change your energy, your body expression changes. It does. One of the most active areas of research today is epigenetics. This is on page 77. The study of how the environment controls the gene activity. Remember, when I was first going to college years ago, I was told you were given a set of genes and that's who you are. You are given a set of genes, but those genes have a great number of variables that they can express. It's not as fixed as science used to think. Epigenetics flies in the face of conventional genetic model, which stated that DNA controls all of life and that all gene expression takes place inside the cell. No, doesn't work that way. In fact, epigenetic changes in DNA expression can be passed on to future generations. Now that was a head twister. As your body cells grow, mature, and they die off and new cells are replaced, those new cells take on the energy of those older cells that are being passed. That's quite a hoot. I thought that was really something. While a scientific explanation is beyond the scope of this book, we can use the analogy. Let's compare genetic sequencing to blueprints. And he goes on to copying blueprints like that. Your genetics, when you change your energy, you're creating an overriding blueprint for how your body rules. And that tells your body things like what level of efficiency are your white cells? Are you producing white cells effectively? Are you distributing oxygen effectively? Is your muscles and nerves healing effectively? Is your microbiome working well? All of these things are affected by our vision of ourselves. Are we in stress because we're in fear mode all the time, anger mode, guilt mode, defeat, depression? All these things defeat the body's ability to be healthy and enjoy. Just by changing our thoughts, feelings, emotions, reactions, and behaviors, we send our cells new signals and they express new proteins without changing the genetic blueprint. So while DNA code stays the same, once the cell is activated in new ways, by new information, the cells can create thousands of variations. So you're not actually changing your DNA, but you're telling the DNA to do something different. That was phenomenal to me. Think about things that you hold on to your life that you're just struggling against that you think you can't do. What if you got peace in your mind so that your mind got quiet and now you can? Isn't that something? It's possible. People do it all the time in this work. They get free of their past and they just start life again. It's pretty amazing. One of the things I like about this work is that Dr. Joe takes this around the planet to every culture, every age, everything. And it's just such a human thing. You would never get someone to convince me that they couldn't take advantage and grow in this work. All you've got to do is be just reasonably healthy so that you understand what to do and put in the time. If you talk to me on the telephone, eventually I'll say, how bad do you want it? How much do you want it? Are you going to just give up in the first time those old programs get in your face? Or are you going to say, I am committed and I'm going to do this until I get free? It's overcoming your body. you notice that the body's not you. It isn't. It feels like you. We're taught by our society this body's me. Look at me. No, that's not me. This is my expression. You just learned that the external environment chemically signals genes through the emotions of an experience. That's an important statement. By losing control of your emotions, you're no longer in control of the messages you're giving your genetic expressions. Think about that. As long as I am consciously aware that I have a history, like I do, I am on guard about letting my mind run off on the emotions of anger. So I don't let those old emotions in, and they knock on my door. I really was like that, and so I really have to stand guard over it. That really is part of my story. And so I just stand guard over it, and it doesn't happen to me now, but I have to stand guard over it. And it comes up in some of the most, well, just like it used to. It's just that now I see it and I go, okay, get out of here. You know, before it'd get in my head and it'd stay there. Now I know just to just boot it. No new information from the outer world is reaching your cells. If you let that stuff in, you're going back to where you were. Then you talked about the diabetics. They had two groups. I'm down to page 80 and 81. They had two groups of diabetics. They tested them. They knew them. They had a history of them. And one group, they put them in a room and let them watch comedy, outrageous comedy, for about an hour. And they were laughing and playing, being goofy for an hour. Then they had a control group that they put in. They gave them some lectures to watch, probably some science show or some political stuff or something. I don't know. It just says they gave them some lectures to watch. And then they gave them both the same meal. The group that watched the lecture, their diabetic reaction went through the roof, like you would expect a diabetic reaction to happen. And they had to give them the treatment. The first group that went to the comic shows, they only marginally went up on their sugar count. They didn't have to get a treatment. Why? Because their mind was at peace and in joy, and their heart was full, and they had their energy in. Known diabetics, and the only difference was that they had a happy mind over the other group for 1 hour. The change can be profound and it can be quick. Our emotions can turn on some gene sequences and turn off others. This study clearly showed it. So your emotions turn some off and some on. It's really kind of a complex thing. And I think it's really kind of cool myself. Because what it does for me is that as I sit in my chair, I am now the captain of my body chemistry. My body chemistry is still not completely controlled. I'm still pretty much just a guy. But now I know if I can get into that place and drive in the light, my heart, and sit for a period of time where my heart is just in love. Not love that, just turn on the light of love and just love me and let that love grow and grow. I heal. And the genetics in me will do things to help me heal. I think that is amazing. It's that simple. And in Dr. Joe's conferences, that happens every conference. Somebody gets a profound healing simply because they let go of this holding on to this image of themselves, and they went and took on their new self as a conscious energy being. Then, as you change the circuitry in your brain by thinking in new ways, and you embrace the emotions of an event ahead of its physical manifestation, it's possible that you can change your body genetically. That's what I wanted you to hear there. in one sitting, if you go all in, you can change the expressions of your genetics right then, right there. It happens. I've seen it. I've had it done in me. This is really something that we're going to learn to do as we go through these books. Tina, I see your hand up. Thank you for being so patient.
You can unmute now. Yes.
Okay, okay. I think, am I unmuted now? Okay,
Yes, yes,
thank
we
you.
can hear.
Okay. So my question is, when you have a new, like a raw emotion, like the loss of someone from this plane, from this earth, if we are not acknowledging that emotion, if we're trying to move past that emotion into this greater self, are we not stuffing that down inside for it to come up at some other time by not?
Very good question, and a very sensitive question. I follow what you're saying. There is a balance in between when you have a real loss, like a loss of a loved one, it is natural to feel that in your heart. And it's natural to shed tears in that loss. Don't put it in a box, because part of that pain is an expression of love, not an expression of pain and anger and jealousy. It's just, you've got to love hurt. And sometimes love hurts. It just does. So I wouldn't tell you to ever put that in a box, but there's got to be a way of doing that that doesn't wreck your life in the meantime. Let your heart ache for the loss, for the broken love, but that individual is an eternal being like you are. They were not snuffed out like a candle in the dark room. No, their expression has left this expression. And so, yes, you have lost that connection, but they're an eternal being just like you are. And so let that give you some peace. They really are. And someday doing the work, you're going to get back in that space and you're going to go, oh my goodness, there they are. Because it's just on the other side of a doorway of our minds. I've been doing this long enough and had enough experiences and seen enough other people that it really is. It's like we have a doorway that we've closed back here. And what we're learning how to do is go through that door. And the communion there is just on the other side of that door. So I would never criticize a broken heart for a loss of love like that. It's just part of the pain of loving, part of the risk of loving. Somebody says, why does love hurt? Well, there's risk in love. There just is. So my heart feels for your loss and the genuineness and the love pain that's in it, and cherish the memories, and in time that will be more familiar and be able to ease, but don't put it in a box. That's part of the process of love. I hope that helped a little bit. I don't know if I answered that very well.
No, thank you. You did. I appreciate it.
Yes. Julie, I see your hand up.
Okay, sorry, we need to unmute her. Julie B. Okay,
Thank you,
sorry.
Patrice.
You can unmute now. You need to unmute yourself. Julie.
Can you hear me now?
Good. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Okay,
Thank you,
good.
Julie. Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you. So everything you're saying resonates, and I've been working through the PTSD, but I'm wondering if there ever gets to be a point in time where you can trust your feelings, because I guess it's making me question now all of my feelings as a whole. If they're all chemical, then is there validity to them? So once you get out of that PTSD mindset or whatever it is that you're working working through and things are normal, do you see a point in time where you can somewhat rely on the new programs?
I can speak for myself, and I can tell you, I still shed tears over the memory the first day I sat down and my mind was quiet. Can you imagine, after having a lifetime of terror in my mind, to sit here and look around and be in a quiet mind? Yeah, Julie, there is a time when it does heal and it's gone. But it didn't happen overnight. It took me a few months of very deliberate letting go, very deliberate forgiveness, very deliberate tears, letting go. And just finally, one day I sat down. I can remember I sat like that. I went like this because I was so used to having to shut up the voices. You with me? And one day I sat down and my mind was quiet. I'm sitting there going, oh my God, and tears. Just, I'm in this room all by myself and tears flowed because for the first time in my life, my mind is quiet. Now let me be full on this. I still get busy mind. I still, just chatter in my head, but none of the lifetime of pain and shame and terror and violence that I lived with and anger, all of that has been healed. Don't tell the VA they'll take away my disability check. But yeah, there is a time when it can go away. Karina, I see your hand up.
I wanted to mention for the speaker who spoke about her loss. I think Dr. Joe talks about the refractory period.
Yes, that's a good word. That's a good word.
Yeah, and it is here in Breaking the Habit. So every emotion really does have its place. But again, as you are saying, when you are safe, when you are loved, when you are this, can you let go of this? And how long does it take? So Dr. Joe, as far as I understand his teachings, is not saying you will never feel difficult emotions. That's not what he's saying. He's saying we will all respond, we will all react. We will all be sometimes annoyed, sometimes we're going to be angry, whatever. But how long will it take us to get back to our own equilibrium?
Very good words.
So just for this person who is suffering probably right now, and yeah, when we regulate our chemistry, I guess, this refractory period, getting back to our equilibrium, getting back to our to ability to have joy, not to be stuck in the grief 5 years after, 10 years after, right? Or in anger or in shame. That is the shortening of this refractory period.
Very good words. Yes, there is a processing that we'll learn to do as we go through this. Well, there's exercises in this book. There's meditations in this book. There's how to create an intention of the future self in this book, and then we'll go into You Are the Placebo, and we'll start doing some really pretty cool stuff in that. Jihan,
You can unmute yourself. You need to speak a little bit louder.
Oh, can you hear me? Am I muted?
there you go.
Okay. Mine was just basically what the last spoker just said. I probably put it before in my head, but it was in regards to women who are experiencing the same with grief, but just how Dr. Durden really talks about not necessarily suppressing emotions or framing the box, but are there for like a length of time. You talked about going into emotion, it turning into a mood, and then it turning into a temperament, and then it's turning into the personality. So you don't want to reach that point where now something that's happened before in the past that is an unsatisfactory state of being, or a state of being that essentially is well-being. See your personality that for that long, right? That's basically the sort of
Your mic wasn't very clear on that, Joanne, but thank you. Yeah, there is a process, and it's a process of letting go and a process of forgiveness and it's a process of change. When you have thoughtfully rehearsed a future reality until your brain has physically changed to look like it has had the experience, and you have emotionally embraced a new intention so many times that your body is altered to reflect it, has had the experience, hang on, because this is the moment the event finds you. What it's talking about is that one of the intentions, one of the goals of the work that we do in our meditation is to create an image of our future self and put it on and do it so many times that this expression starts tuning to that new intention and your very being starts changing. I'm working on an image now that's a little outrageous, but this is how it goes. It started with, I am. I am an energy being. I am. I am an electrical energy being. I am. I am an luminous electrical energy being. It's starting to feel good already. I am an eternal electrical, luminous energy being. I am a son of the divine. I am the son of the Father. I am an inheritor to the divine infinite potential. I am. Oh, I got goosebumps just rehearsing that because I get that in me. I've said that many, many times. And it's like I'm putting it on. And it's had an amazing effect on my health. Someday you'll hear that story too. I'm in the process of healing an incurable disease. When you have thoughtfully rehearsed, okay, I said that, and it will arrive in a way you least expect. Leaves no doubt that it comes from your relationship to the greater consciousness so that it inspires you to do it again. That little meditation, my I am prayer meditation, was an accumulation of different parts. Well, I've teased you about it a couple of times. So the year that I had my ending to the skin cancer, later that year, I was diagnosed with colon cancer. So that the next year I had been diagnosed, biopsy, MRI pictures of tumors in my colon. 2 months later, when they rolled into surgery, my colon was so clean there wasn't even a polyp. I'm 70 years old during this event. And from the time that that MRI happened to 2-3 months later, when they finally gave me a schedule for surgery, the colon completely healed, not even a polyp. The surgeon said there was nothing there. Tell your husband, she's talking to my wife, and she told my wife, tell your husband to put his clothes on and go home. And the doctor got up and walked away. She was upset that we had taken her time for a wasted surgery. How's that? Plus, like I said, PTSD, my mind is quiet. All the terrors of my mind is gone. And then later that same year, that next year, I was told, by the way, being in the military in Vietnam for a couple of years, I got exposed to some nasty chemicals. The United States doesn't treat its soldiers very well when it comes to chemicals. So anyway, so I was told I had, be with you in just a second, Mark. Okay. I was told I had CLL, chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And for the next, that was in 2020, I was told that. And for the next 5 years, every time they tested me, my lymphocyte count was going up. It was low, and then it got last spring. Do we have any medical people here? Medically trained people? Mark, are you medically trained? Mark, turn your mic on, please.
Yes, you can unmute.
Pretty much. I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and biochemistry. I worked as an acute care technician in the trauma unit at the Washington Hospital Center. And
Oh, I love you already. I'm glad you're with our party. Thanks.
thank you. And I know all too well the impact of chemicals, even more so these days, called PFAS, for those that
Yes.
might know of it. But my older brother, God rest his soul, was horribly exposed to chemicals in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But with that said, I have a
So
question.
before you continue, let me tell you why I
Yeah,
brought it up. I am diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia. It is directly related to Agent Orange in Vietnam.
yeah.
So in 5 years, every year, my lymphocyte count went higher and higher, and it got to what's called, they listed at 7.5, which is the top of the mild version. Anything higher than that, it will start crowding out my blood, and I'll start having effects. I changed my meditation. Something in me taught me a new meditation, and it essentially had something to do with what I just told you about I am and how I put it on, and it just electrifies me when I say it. From May, I think it was May, but it was 7.5. August, it was 4.9. This month, it was 4.4. I am healing an absolutely incurable disease called lymphocytic leukemia. I am just a little bit outside of normal now. This stuff, what I'm teaching here, what I'm talking about, you're looking at somebody who lives this. If I didn't, I'd be dead, because cancers have tried, the toxins in me have tried to kill me a few times. Well, anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Mark, continue, please. Thank you.
You talked about the I'll use the word perseveration of guilt. I have an employee of mine who I care very much, and she probably has colon cancer, and it'll be confirmed this week. And I would do anything if she could hear this. I also have a friend who has breast cancer and 3 children, and it's a horrible disease. And this is a little outside what we're talking about, but how in the hell can you get somebody that is very conservative and rigid to embrace another approach to all this? Because
Dr. Joe says people change for one of 2 reasons: from trauma and for love of the future self. I didn't choose to change. I was diagnosed with advanced stage melanoma and all the other kind of cancers, and I had 3 years to live. That was back in 2009. I had 3 to 5 years to live. Get my affairs in order. The doctor wasn't idly saying all the rest of the advanced stage melanomas that was around me, they're all dead. I am the sole survivor of the group that I was with, because I did stuff that they didn't do. The number one reason for me to change, I got knocked off my high horse. My tough guy attitude was completely taken away from me. My strong physical body and clear mind was taken from me. All I had left was this consciousness in my body that says, no, you can't have me. And I did everything, I learned everything I could do to resist. But it wasn't until I did Dr. Joe's work that I learned to change my energy and had a dramatic change where I started thinking I was not the person that was then. I'm this new person. And that's what healed the melanoma cancer. The second thing is the love of the future self. I knew guys that got healed of the cancer. 2 years later, they were dead because they went back to living the same life they had before they got the cancer. The same life, same effect. I changed and I didn't go back. You're looking at somebody who lives this stuff, because I have a shadow that will take me in a heartbeat if I let go of it. I lived a very toxic, toxic emotionally, toxic physically, life. I earned these, so I can't say, why did it happen to me? I just laugh and say, yeah, I know why it happened to me. Look where I walked, look what I did. So I'm having to hold on to this image of my future self so that I'm still here. So if she doesn't, those are two choices. If she is the pain of it, the threat of death great enough for her to say, I will change? If not, then I know people just, why aren't you fighting? Well, I don't care. Okay, goodbye. Just this stuff kills, it just, it's like, it just goes up the whiteboard and erases names. It doesn't care. If the person isn't willing to fight for it, there's nothing you can do for them. I haven't found it. If you have an energy about you that's great enough to impact her heart, then that might. I've seen that happen.
Sorry, what'd you say one more time? Rewind a
If
sentence.
your energy is great enough, your love for that individual, your mind for that individual is great enough to impact her heart and say, change, give her, waken the struggle, because it's not easy. There is no compromising to get over this. I even changed my water filter in my house. I've got a reverse osmosis water filter in my house. That's as clean as I could afford. I mean, I didn't leave anything unturned, and I lived as clean a life as I knew how to live. And that's one of the reasons I survived when everybody else didn't. I got off all kind of dirty food, the American sad diet. I didn't do any of that stuff, and I still don't. Well, I dabble in it now because I don't have any tumors in me, and leukemia isn't affected by that. But tumor-based cancers are affected by junk food. It feeds it. And I didn't do any for years. I mean, I still don't have any of that stuff in my house. I just go out now and then. Two things, trauma or love of the future self. That's why people change.
Thank you for your guidance. It's very sound and wise. I'm in a business where we get up ridiculously early, so I'm going to sign off, but I don't want you to take it as anything other than I gotta get my sleep.
Okay, Mark, thank you for being here. I hope you come
Look forward
next
to seeing
week.
you again. And thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Right.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so that was a sensitive conversation. I talk to people who have cancers and stuff like that, and they talk to me hoping I can say something that gets in their head. What I say is, how bad do you want it? Are you so surrendered to your life that you won't fight for your life? How bad do you want it? Will you come out swinging? Oh man, I'm telling you, I did not hold anything sacred. And that's why I survived until I found Dr. Joe's work. And then, the word surrender was probably my hardest word to swallow doing this work. You'll hear that Dr. Joe talk about surrendering numerous times. I didn't like that word. I finally had to cross that bridge because I wanted it. There was nothing sacred, and so I would surrender. I had to learn what that word means. We still got a little bit of time to talk. Okay, Karina. Oh, let me talk to Patricia here. She's first time.
We need to, hold on. You can unmute now.
Okay.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi. So I had a religious upbringing. I was raised Catholic.
Me
And
too.
a lot of these things though that I found actually blend with some of my religious beliefs. I think a lot of times people who are really religious might not want to embrace this, frou-frou theology, but I find that there's a lot there that overlaps and you can blend it sometimes. So you can get them just not to be afraid of some of the ideology. Sometimes it blends like the Holy Spirit. The Holy
Right.
Spirit to me is connection. We've taught that there's a connection. And
Did you know that for the first 100 years, the Holy Spirit was the mother divine? There's a Father divine, the Holy Spirit, but the male church didn't like having a mother divine, so they renamed it. They renamed it the Holy Spirit. But if
I
you
didn't
get,
know that.
yes,
But I always think, I
it's
mean,
true
they talk
history.
about prayer and, speaking to God and communing with God. I think a lot of this has to do with that. And meditation is really, in a lot of ways, a prayer.
Absolutely, except it's
So,
different. The religion I learned was that God's over there, and I need to get from here to there. That's not what we do. Here, God is here, in our hearts. And we don't go over there. We just go into our hearts and open our hearts out. And in that commune, we discover the divine.
excellent. Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of a little bridge, but if you can take them halfway there, sometimes they're
Exactly.
willing
But
to meld their
But
ideology.
I can tell you, I don't talk about this to anybody around here in Dallas. I'm telling you.
Oh, amen, brother. I'm in Dallas too.
Oh, are
When
you?
I'm in Carrollton, and when I got here, people would say, "Don't say that."
Yeah.
I'm from California, and they would say, "Ooh, don't say that out loud."
Yeah, exactly. Those cowboys can be crazy sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm glad you're here, Patricia. We're going to have to talk more about our local heritage here. There's a really great group that does walking meditations about once a month. You're going to have to get connected with them. That's how I met Georgia, this sweet lady here on this other picture. And yeah, it's kind of fun to walk in White Rock Lake. They do walking meditations, and it's really kind of funny having 30 people walking around like zombies, where the world is walking on the sidewalk, and there's people going, it's a hoot. I loved
That
it.
must be quite a sight.
Oh, it was. Georgia
my
and I had
God.
a great day that day.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay, Karina, I see your hand.
Karina, you can unmute.
I just wanted to say, Ray, that I really, that I admire you and your will and your unwavering belief that the death is not going to take you. But many people are not so strong.
Right. That's why I said, how bad do you want it?
So what I wanted to kind of offer, like sometimes people like me, we don't know what we want, right? And I have no real energy to put out there. So what I'm doing, I'm listening to stories and testimonials of other people to give me courage, to give me motivation, to give me some belief that this can happen. Like one of the reasons that I'm coming to this group for years now is to see again, yes, here's Ray and he's doing it and he knows it and he's motivated and this person was motivated and this and this and this, because I lack this energy. But all these testimonials are easy to find, are easy to listen to, and they are kind of very gently push my mind in the right direction that I'm lacking right now. So just saying if somebody is kind of I don't know, maybe yes, maybe not, I'm just saying, just listen to stories of people, different stories, different people, and see what resonates with you, because I think that stuff is not happening to me very abruptly, because I believe it can happen. Like, I see you every Sunday. I know it can happen, right? But I just still don't believe it can happen to me. Right? So people who are struggling and other people who really want to help them might just gently tell them, oh, here is a story. You might want to watch this video. You might want to listen to this person. You might want to join our book club on Sunday evenings and things like that. Like, how bad do you want it? I don't care. I don't care. I can go. Right?
You
So not
know,
everybody is as strong as you. That's what I'm just trying to say, that people are kind of different.
and I really respect that, Karina, and I thank you for being sensitive and sharing that. And I bet there's a number of people here that could quote that and go, yeah, I'm there. I'm wishing for it. I'm wanting it, but it's not connecting for me. I think that's a very real issue. Where I started was in a very dark hole after years of cancer treatment. And finally, my head was clearing and I was getting, and Dr. Joe's fall in love with your future self, your future self. I had no idea. I had lost my health. I had lost my wealth. I had lost my ability to work. I had, I had nothing, man. No one, I couldn't be employed because who's going to hire a guy that, I'm active cancer patient. I could cost your insurance $500,000 any year, anytime. No one's going to hire me. So just what can I do? And so what I did, as an example, I would go into meditation and Dr. Joe says, go to your future self. I'm going, I have no future. What are you talking about? My future is paying next month's bills, right? And so I got the idea of, I remembered a scriptural verse, the same religion, this is scriptural verse. It says, I give you the desires of your heart. It doesn't say I give you what you want. He says, the divine says, I give you your desires. If you are honest in your heart, you are doing what you're supposed to be. And so I started thinking about this verse that was echoing in my mind. And I said, okay, give me the desire because I don't have one. My heart is empty. I've spent the last 10 years empty. You just can't believe how empty that life is for 10 years. For a strong man to get there, it's just, oh, it was painful. And I started meditating on give me the desire, begging for something. And I started getting messages. And it's like, what about this? And what about, no. It's like they were testing me or something. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that I had a menu of things go across my mind and my heart. And it's like, no, that's not me. And then all of a sudden I got one and it's like, ding, there was one that just made my heart rig. Forget it, just recalling that moment just moves me with emotions. And I said, I can do that. I'm talking to this being in my consciousness. I can do that. And I heard him laugh. Sure, you can do that one, right? I can do, really? And I have not let go of that since that day. And what you're seeing here in this right now, being a teacher in this and leading this and showing this and expressing this, saying, I am doing it. And look what it's doing in me. I'm nobody special. I'm not some guru on a pillow. I'm some crazy veteran that just got a hold of this work and it did it to me. And I am falling in love with my future self. And what you see in today is me on the journey. Am I fully there yet? Oh no, it's crazy. But it's like, but I get little hints that I'm on my way to that future love that just made my heart ring that day. That's what I did. But I can tell you, it was months where I just said, give it to me, Father. I know you promised to give me the desire. What is it? What's my heart's desire? And that is truly what I went through that first year because I had no one to talk to. I didn't have a community for 2 years. I was alone doing Dr. Joe's work. I had 2 books. I had this book and You're the Placebo and just a few meditations because that's all I could afford at the time. And in that time, I was dramatically healed of melanoma cancer. I was dramatically healed of melanoma. I was colon cancer and melanoma. And I was delivered from the nightmares of PTSD. Doing this, sitting in this chair. Yeah, that's my journey. And now, 5 years down the road, I'm learning how to do something that is unheard of. I am healing chronic lymphocytic leukemia. I'm almost there. I am only a few points out of normal. Crazy. I'm not, my wife says, don't get totally healed. She says, why? Because then you might lose your medical disability. I said, oh, okay, maybe I can just get a little bit sick so that I can keep the checks coming. Yeah, a little real life there, guys. So anyway, but yeah, that's what I did to find my future self. Thank you, Karina. That was a very sensitive point, and I'm sure there's a number of people who can relate to that same feeling. Feroza. You might, Mike, please. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was, I was doing something and I could hear your heart. Thank you for sharing that, because I could hear the honesty in your heart. And I wanted to ask you that after you did this soul, after you went down this path, what was your heart's desire? Because I think we all have the same heart.
I spent most of my life an angry, disturbed individual, and I can remember conversation with my wife when will I ever get to give? When will I ever have anything worth saying? When will I ever be part of someone's healing instead of hurting? And there's a few other things like that. And I put a letter, as he'll teach you how to do an intention where you put a letter on the board, put circles, how does it feel and how does it look? I did that. I'm telling you, I lived this book. There's a chapter in here about, say, change. I did that. I lived this stuff. You're looking at somebody that, if you work hard enough at how bad do you want it? You know, it wasn't easy. I sat here by myself with tears many times. You know, just make it stop. Because I didn't know how to let go. But I learned, you know, just by wanting it bad enough. My teachers came and edged me a little bit this way, a little bit. What about this side, Ray? Did you think about this? And I get these aha moments, you know. And but I did it by sitting in this chair doing hours of meditation, day again, until I learned to just get back here and get free, until I learned how to get in my heart and open up. For this old veteran to be able to just walk by and love people, wow, what a cool thing to do. You know, it's just.
And someone like me, I have been in this habit of being lukewarm. So I'm like, oh yeah,
It's safe. It's safe to be lukewarm.
Yes, and I'm like, why don't I want it bad enough?
Because it's safe. I'm telling you, that's why I've talked to people like that, and they're lukewarm because it's safe. It's familiar. You're gonna hate that word by the time we're done with this book, because familiar is a liar. Familiar, you can be familiar to being abused. I talk to women who are just, well, I'm here, just my husband's a painful guy, but I'm here. Why? Because it's familiar. Well, quit being familiar and get out. Quit being
And the fear of the unknown, right?
There it is. You're safe. Because you feel, because that's familiar. Reach out and dare to love. Not love this or like, just open your heart. One of the things I like to do, because I've learned how to do it, I can't do it every time. I'm not a saint. I have days when I'm about as turned off as anybody else. But what's really cool is for me we have a super grocery store, a Walmart grocery store, one of those big things about the size of a football field. And it's got all the weird stuff that everybody sees about Walmart. But I like to go in and walk slowly going in and turn on love. Just do a little walking meditation going up to the doors and just turn it on and start thinking love. And just as I walk through the aisles, I look for someone that will resonate with me. It's the coolest thing because most people are busy. They got this thing, they got kids. And every now and then somebody will walk by me. They're not looking, I feel them walk, and I feel an energy connection. They received a touch from my love. And I turn to look at them, and they're looking at me like, what did you just do? And all I could do is just smile, wave, and keep going. It's the coolest thing in the world. You know, I love it. I've got something to give. I never had that before in my life. Go to the grocery store, I go to the cash register, and those ladies are working hard. Oh man, that's a hard job. Put up with people like that, and just stand there and just give them the grocery store, and spend a moment loving that person with all I know how to do. And you'll see their shoulders come down and relax. You'll hear it in their voice as their voice mellows, and they don't even know what's happening to them. But the love is just relaxing them. That's a cool thing to be able to do. And then you go on, I got to touch somebody. Oh, that was my future self. And I'm improving on it and getting stronger and stronger.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Jerry?
You can unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear
Yes.
you, Jerry.
So I just wanted to share, as you were talking about how you turn on the love, that there's actually been scientific studies where when we, if we feel stressed, we emit a certain set of hormones that we emit, and other people can perceive them, and animals can perceive them as well.
Yes.
At the same time, if we feel happy and positive, we emit a different set of hormones, and other people can detect those hormones. Like, we don't realize that we're detecting them, but it will affect our own levels of cortisol and stress.
Absolutely. You know,
And,
animals live and breathe and have their being in the alpha brainwaves.
Yeah.
If you learn how to go alpha and think, you can touch animals emotionally. I've done it. I can't do it all the time, but I've done it a few times. It's really, really cool.
Yes. And there's a video of some research that they did with dogs specifically. They had people watch a scary show, a thriller that created a lot of stress hormones, collected their sweat on a cotton swab, and then they had other people watch comedies that would make them laugh and happy, and collected that sweat. Well, then they had a room where they had a neutral person or a stranger in one corner, and the dog and its owner would come in from the other side, and the swatch, the cotton swab, was in the middle of the room. And if it was the sweat from this scary movie, the dog would smell it and it would like cower away and hide in the corner. But if it was from the comedy where people were happy, that sweat, when the dog smelled it, it would wag its tail and run up to the stranger and want to meet them. So
Exactly. Yeah.
very powerful.
That's real life. And that is part of what I'm learning in this journey. I know that to be true. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. Shantae, thank you.
You can unmute.
Hello.
Thank you for being patient, lady.
Oh, no problem. I just had a question. You had mentioned when you have those human moments and you're not being supernatural, and you realize that you're kind of back. You said you don't always have your conscious on where you're loving everybody. So when
Right.
you go back to those moments when you're feeling like your old self that you're kind of trying to move away from, what do you do to pivot? Maybe you can give us just a little bit of what you do so we can try to start pivoting ourselves when we start feeling like we're going in the direction that we don't want to go.
That's a good question. Let's see if I can answer it, because it's kind of tricky. Because partly I just don't get in people's energies, because I know I've got priors, and I know my past to be a little overreactive. And so I just kind of, okay, I'm not up for it today, you know? And the most important thing is I don't accuse me. I don't hold on to it. I now know that it's just body chemistry. And sometimes it takes a little while for me to shed a memory that got stirred up for some strange reason, and body chemistry is released. And so I just kind of wait a little while. The biggest thing I used to do wrong is I'd accuse me of being something. You know, it's just however, And now I just, oh, it's just body chemistry. Give me a little while and I can do it again. You know, I have times I
Okay.
sit down here in the morning and I just sit with my eyes open and I look around. I mean, it's just, my head is just not going to do it this morning. So I just mess around the house, do what I can. And sometimes the house is quiet in the afternoon. I sit down and have a good meditation in the middle of the afternoon. Because
Okay.
I don't accuse me anymore. That was big for me. Sometimes we are chemical and we are affected by many weird things that we're affected by diets, we're affected by imbalances in our blood, we're affected by our water hydration, you know, just all kind of weird stuff affects us, and that effect gives a chemical, the chemical goes ahead and our genes start emitting according to these new chemicals. And you're just going, oh, come on, I wanted to do something, you know, and you just don't accuse you. And in a little while, you start putting yourself on your future intent. You change because the love for the future self. It says, we'll go into it later in the book. And I used to drive, I wasn't really a competitive driver, but I used to get angry when people cut off on the stuff and I'm trying to go somewhere. And I'd feel that, and I would say, change. And my wife would go, what? What did you say? I said, change. She said, what's that? She says, oh, it's something I'm learning with Dr. Joe. And I'd stop the rush in me and put my mind on my future self, so that, I think it was Karina was talking earlier, just get up and give your mind something positive and it turns it off. You might lose that moment's battle, but that battle is only a moment. And in just a short while, those old chemicals will be just resolved in the body and you're back to being a good, happy self. Sometimes it's more than a moment because life is one of those things. But in general, you no longer lose the war because you know that this is just chemicals doing weird things in your head. Just because of back memory. I mean, some of these memories could go back to a heritage. I mean, just you're not even exposed to this stuff, but because it's part of your heritage, you got grievances that just bug you, right? And when it comes up, you just, no, I'm going to do that, change. And you turn your mind to this new intention and give yourself peace. And that old chemistry will just fade in a little while. I do that. I did that. I did a few other things that you'll hear me talk about, you know, just, but I'm just telling you, I live this, and that's why I'm alive. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I spend money. I pay for the Zoom and I pay for the meetup. Why? To give you what I've learned. This book is a little cryptic to somebody, because it took me months to understand this book again and again and again and again. And so I'm here to, like footprints in the sand, make your walk just a little bit easier if I could. That's my
Thank you.
gift. Did that help, Saute?
Yeah, very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't accuse yourself when you're off track that day. It's just, sometimes it's just chemistry. Okay. Jerry? Oh, you had your hands up. Anybody else? We're getting pretty late here, and so I wanted to kind of finish this. But yeah, that last conversation, what do you do when you can't connect? And you just, number one, don't accuse you. It's just chemistry. That was a lesson tonight. Overcoming the body and understanding your body's got its own programs running, and it is often contrary to what you're trying to do. All right? We've all tried to quit habits and stuff, and just you just can't make your body get in line. Now you're learning that's natural, that's normal, that's human. But now you're learning that if you start tuning in to a future self, tuning in and putting that on like an actor puts on a stage, you'll be defeated the first few battles. Generally, some people get it right the first time. I don't know. But you just keep putting it on and putting it on, and the body will start tuning in to that new future self, and you will become that future intent. I just love this work. I'm so grateful that you people joined me this evening. I've got so much to share that will change your life if you can get it. And I am not exaggerating when I say, how bad do you want it? Because I'm telling you, it's not easy. You got to want it to tears. But if you want it bad enough, good enough, I'm not sure how to, bad enough doesn't sound right. But if you want it enough, then you'll keep doing the work. You'll keep doing the work, and your old self will expect it, push against you. You'll find words like surrender that are just not something that easy to go down, but you'll learn new definitions of some words that Dr. Joe uses that might be different from yours. And since I've used it a few times, how many people think that the word surrender means defeat? I did. Surrender does not mean defeat in the way Dr. Joe uses that word. I didn't know that. Every time he uses the word, I'd go, I don't do surrender. You're not bigger and bad enough to make me do that. Until I learned that surrender means let go. If I'm holding this and you say, surrender that to me. There, take it. That's the word of surrender. What is it you're surrendering? You're surrendering this control to your ego mind. I let go of it and let the natural forces in me take it. And now by doing that, my consciousness is free of the bond these two guys are holding on to. You surrender it, and now you can become that which you meant to be. And that's an amazing spiritual being. You really are energy beings of glory and light far beyond your wildest dreams. I've seen it. I've seen it. And it will unravel your world if you ever see it. It really will. Okay. Man, I've been rattling. You got me real sensitive for a while. Okay, okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording and take a break, and we'll go into a blessing of the energy center meditation.